Hello, this is Scientific Guy. I have been asked by my friends to react to a video by Moist Critical, or Charlie, or penguinz0 on YouTube, and I figured I'll do it in the form of a recording, put it on YouTube, send it to my friends. They're probably going to be the only ones who see it, except for a couple of you guys who are obviously seeing it online. I don't have any experience doing this kind of thing publicly. This is just for me to test out how OBS works in terms of my camera, which is a potato, my lighting, which is also a potato. That's actually really annoying. Let me go fix that. Okay, just fix the lighting. We should be good now. Living room is pretty messy, but I don't record very often anymore. So, what I'm doing here is I'll be reacting to Moist Critical's video on Thunderbolts, which I have seen recently in theaters. Short review here. I didn't think it was very good for a lot of different reasons. I think it's slightly better than the other Marvel movies that have been coming out recently, but I thought it was one of the most insulting Marvel movies I've seen in a long time and how it treated its characters. So I'm really interested to see what Charlie thinks about it. My opinion is obviously not the mainstream one, because I've been seeing a lot of really positive reactions online, but I'll jump into this and see if I can figure out what he's talking about, respond to his points, give some well-reasoned, well-meaning responses if I can, and we'll see where we go from here. Let's pull this up, Moist Critical's channel, and see what he's got. Hey, Charlie.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I know I've become a bit of an old curmudgeon who...
Okay. So his video, I'm sorry, the top and bottom of my screen are cut off, but his title is Thunderbolts Actually Good? And he said it's pretty good. That's sad. I used to kind of like Charlie's movies takes, and now he's saying this one's good, so I want to see the reasons he gives for it. He's talking about being a curmudgeon, which I don't think is a problem at all. I think there are plenty of movies, especially in the older MCU, like Civil War, Infinity War, that are excellent. Maybe their plots can use a little bit more ironing out, but the characters are phenomenal. And movies that I think are classics, like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, for example, is I think one of the best examples. And then other movies even older than that are excellent. That we don't have to hold these films as since they're slightly better than what's been coming out recently, all of a sudden they're pretty good. I think we should hold films to a much higher standard. But I'll see what he says. Let's run that back.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I know I've become a bit of an old curmudgeon who just doesn't really like superhero films. I don't really get excited to see them, but I did actually have some level of optimism for Thunderbolts because it looked a little different in the reviews on it. Jiminy Christmas, I think it was like the second highest rated Marvel movie ever.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I have no idea where those ratings are coming from, especially with what the film has to say about mental health and combating mental health and treating it. The movie kind of vilifies people with bipolar by saying that if they get superpowers, then they'll become unstoppable rage monsters. And that's kind of weird, especially considering I thought a movie that did this a lot better, even though I had other problems with that movie, was Inside Out 2. And how it went into somebody's head and then had all the emotions reacting to a new emotion being there. I thought there were severe issues with that plot, but the finale of that movie I thought was really good in how it handled how you should act or how you should maybe treat your friends if they have anxiety, or if you're going through that. This is a good representation of what's going on. Also, my friends will know I really love Celeste and the way that Celeste handles that duality of a part of you that is diametrically opposed to you. I love the way Celeste did it, not as much this. The thing with Charlie is I totally get superhero fatigue and not being super excited for superhero movies coming up, and that's what I thought going into this as well. I wasn't really excited for it, and I didn't leave really impressed. But I think the main source of superhero fatigue for most people, even if they don't realize it, is it's not about too many superhero movies, it's too many bad superhero movies. Because we haven't tested having an endless amount, or I guess an indefinite amount, of good superhero films since 2016, 2017. We were getting a good amount of really good films back then. And I don't really remember people talking about how those films were oversaturating cinemas or theaters. I know that people were complaining about DC at the time. I think it's because DC wasn't well written. So I want to see where he comes from in praising the film specifically, more than just saying it's a contrast with previous films.
Or somewhere in that general ballpark, at least for some period of time. I don't know if it still is.
It's also, I want to check this out real quick, actually, because what does Metacritic have to say about it? Am I in full screen? I'm not in full screen. Because the Metacritic's score isn't that much higher. This just goes to show you, Rotten Tomatoes is so... it's not a great representation of a good score for a Marvel movie, or for movies. Because Rotten Tomatoes is just your approval rating. It's if you would give it a 6 out of 10. And look at this. The score is 68. I'm guessing most people who saw this movie said, yeah, it was okay, 60. And then Rotten Tomatoes is like, oh my goodness, this is the greatest... No, it's not. It's actually not. Look at that. By contrast, what was Quantumania? Ant-Man Quantum 48? Let's see, what's another one that was okay? Alright, not okay, but like, people thought was okay. Deadpool and Wolverine? And Wolverine, 56. So what's a little better than that? How about Civil War? Captain America Civil War, 75. Still significantly better. Winter Soldier. And yeah, we're comparing these because... 70. How was the Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Anyway, the reason we're comparing these is because this is the same universe. This is what the writing is being praised as. So it's not as good. It's still really rough. 68's not a good score. But I admit it's better reviewed than recent movies have been. Not as nearly as bloated as Rotten Tomatoes is saying it is. So let's go back to this.
But heavens to Betsy, sports fans, I tell you, with the way people were salivating over this one, I half expected to go in a theater and have this movie rim me out. And now that I've finished watching it and I'm back in witness protection facility here, I can comfortably say this is not a top 3 Marvel movie ever made.
Okay, he's based for that. He said it was pretty good. But then again, top 3 is like Infinity War, Civil War, first Avengers, maybe Homecoming. As far as I would put them, I don't know what he puts as his top 3, but would he put it in top 5? Let's see what he says.
Like, it's a good movie. I did enjoy watching it, but...
Okay, I don't know if he's going to draw a difference between those two. This is a 10-minute review, so we'll get into it.
I think the hype is a little overblown now, and I'm not going to sit here and try and armchair psychologist you like a Redditor, but I'm going to spitball
I'm not a Redditor, but that's what we do on YouTube, isn't it?
theory that I think the reason people are so excited about this movie is because it's finally a new Marvel film that doesn't feel like you just wasted your fucking money going to see it.
Didn't you... What's your metric for that? Because I kind of felt that. I kind of felt like we didn't really accomplish much in terms of the world building. Things don't really make sense where they're going. And I wish that I had just gone and saw Revenge of the Sith in theaters instead, the previous weekend. And the last Marvel movie before this was Captain Falcon. What was before then? Was that Deadpool and Wolverine last year? Yeah, so I feel like that one was the movie where people were like, man, Deadpool is back. This is actually good Marvel and great character development. And like the action, I know people were praising that a lot. And that was one where you had, it's one of the, isn't it the highest grossing R-rated film now? Deadpool and Wolverine? So people spent lots of money on that film. That was just last year. People keep talking about Marvel is back with every new film, including this one. And I don't really know where his metric is.
Like, a lot of them have just felt truly worthless and just like they have nothing to offer. This one is a good film, but I don't think it's like this masterpiece that's now started the golden age of Marvel films again.
See, he's so close. Like, it wouldn't need to be. I think the reason you'd be annoyed at people for calling it exceptional is if there were actually flaws with it. I think the normie take is just, yeah, it's good, but not that good. Well, we'll take good. I'll gladly take good over mediocre.
It is a breath of fresh air in what has become a very stale set of films over the last few years, with a few...
It's still sludge. It's still the same amount of sludge. You have an overpowered villain who becomes a hero or gets redeemed because he's hugged. Do you know what that does for the world building? Someone who can switch that quickly from world-ending superpowers to nothing? That is there's not a hero who can counter that in the MCU. So to just drop that in the middle of a film like this, when you have all the other characters who are just being a jerk to John Walker, calling him a jerk, and Yelena's got some stuff going on, but it's confusing as to what the extent of her depression actually is, and the tone of the movie is all over the place. I feel like it's kind of the same writing we've been getting for a while, just in a slightly more cinematic package. It doesn't feel different to me.
Exceptions, like obviously Guardians 3. But yeah,
People cite Guardians 3 a lot as a breath of fresh air. I do agree. The parts of Guardians 3 that are good, like the rocket sections, are fantastic. The other sections are rather forgettable. I don't really remember what Peter does through half of that film. And that's not saying I can't remember. It's just I don't think of Peter or Gamora when I think of that film. And they're supposed to be the main characters along with Rocket.
overall, it's solid. Now let's get into it a little bit. As you can tell from the trailers, you follow a ragtag team here with characters you're familiar with, but don't.
Familiar with? Are you familiar with Ghost? Tell me, what's her real name? Do you know Ghost's real name? No, we're not familiar with these characters.
Know all that well. Such as Ghost, from one of my least favorite Marvel
See?
movies ever, Ant-Man and the Wasp. So the film already has its work
Man, you didn't like Ant-Man and the Wasp? I feel like it's one of the more serviceable of the mediocre
cut
films.
out for you to make you care about someone that you just don't, like Ghost. And I actually think it does a good job at doing that because
Tell me why.
this movie focuses more on like the emotional aspects of these characters.
Of Ghost? Of Ghost? What does it do for Ghost? It doesn't do anything for her. She shows up. She's a villain in that film. She's killing people. She's stealing things. It's only at the end when she starts to turn around because of Janet Van Dyne. And then Janet disappears and we never hear from Ghost again. What was her development between that one and this one that makes her a hero? There is none. And she's not a hero in this one. She shows up to do a job for Val, and she kills Taskmaster. She's the only one who has a major kill in this film, if I remember correctly. And somehow we're supposed to think that she's willing to go along with the rest of these heroes because of what? What incentive does she have? What emotional development? We don't talk at all about her. I don't think anyone going to see this film could tell you a thing about Ghost other than she can phase through walls and loud sounds disorient her. There was so much potential for that character that was just missed. I don't know where you got this, Charlie.
Characters and the trauma they've been through and how that binds them together and how they
But you don't mention Ghost's trauma. What are you talking about?
can work together as a team to try and overcome what seems to be an undefeatable enemy with
To be fair, he is undefeatable.
Sentry/Void. This isn't spoilers, you can get all that from the trailers. That's the premise
Well, this is spoilers. Sorry about that.
of the film. They all come together in a way that's both silly and pretty exciting, where they're fighting each other. And the fight between all of them is really cool. And you know who else makes an appearance in here? Taskmaster.
So, he says they're fighting each other. It's only a couple of them at the very beginning that they fight, and it's not any significant character motivation as to why they're fighting each other. They're just told to do it, then they realize something's weird here, and they stop. I don't get the impression that this is as deep. No, I'm going to rephrase that. It's not as deep as something like Civil War, where you have all the characters fighting each other. That's as far as I'm going to go on that. Talk about Taskmaster, Charlie.
From everyone's favorite Marvel hit, Black Widow. Every time I think of that movie, I can't help but mention just how absolutely fucking absurd it is that the main villain's power was just being stinky. He smelled, and the smell that you smell, that smelled smelly, made you not want to hurt him. In fact, it made you unable to hurt him. So how do you get around that? Whereas a force field of odor?
You're based for that, Charlie.
Well, you stop smelling it. So, spoiler alert for Black Widow, she breaks her nose and then she's able to hurt him. Wow, that was awesome. And Taskmaster's in that movie and completely ruined by it. And does Thunderbolts use Taskmaster better, finally giving redemption to what is otherwise an extremely cool character in the comics? Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Absolutely fucking not. It's
There we go. Okay, alright. Yeah, no, it kills her off in the first 15 minutes of the movie, and she only has 1 minute of dialogue. Which I think most people, I'm surprised people aren't latching onto this more. Taskmaster's origin is that she was a young girl when Black Widow blew up the apartment that she was in, causing her severe burns and basically confining her to the suit that she's in to be able to move. And the way that she dies in this film is by being shot through the head and then incinerated. It's so embarrassing.
It's even worse than I anticipated. Everyone who saw the trailer immediately theorized that Taskmaster was going to die early as like a show of force from the main villain, Void.
Oh, that's really interesting. I didn't see any of that. I haven't been following the I guess the discussion around this. But that's funny. Wait, what did you say?
Theorized that Taskmaster was going to die early as like a show of force from the main villain, Void.
Okay, so you could tell that she was gonna die early in the film. Okay, that makes sense. So I guess he thought Sentry was gonna be revealed a lot earlier.
It's not even that. Taskmaster dies for literally nothing. In the first 20 minutes, in the first fight scene, Taskmaster just eats a bullet right to the fucking noodle. And that's the end of Taskmaster. She just gets put down immediately. Her death served no greater purpose. It kind of became a joke.
Yeah, it's so embarrassing. She's just gone. And that's why I think this movie fumbles the bag as far as the character motivations go, because we don't get any remorse from any of the characters about Taskmaster. And she's a significant part of this film's history, and somehow a tiny part of the film itself. That's just where I am with that.
Joke for a little minute, then they made a brief mention of how Taskmaster had a rough life, and that was it.
Well, it's worse than that. The way that Yelena frames it, I think it's Yelena frames it, is, oh, she killed people and then she was killed, or she had a rough life and then she killed people and then she was killed. And that's not an accurate description at all, because Taskmaster was mind controlled to do all of that, and then she was released by Black Widow at the end of the film. What a waste of a character. It's just really sad.
I don't know who has a grudge against that character, but they really made it clear they fucking hate Taskmaster. Anyway, I immediately jumped into a critique here, but overall...
Is that because of the meta? Because people were upset that it wasn't the guy Taskmaster? Like the real Taskmaster instead of Dreykov's daughter? Because you had a character, you made her Dreykov's daughter. The way to solve this is not to just instantly kill her.
Overall, I did like the movie. I do think it's overhyped, but I do appreciate that the film is a little different from most Marvel projects, where
I'll let him go.
it does dive into darker subject matter. Like,
It doesn't handle it well. It really doesn't. It's all over the place with handling depression and handling the characters going through it. The beginning of the film is Yelena just stepping off of a building and then pulling a ripcord for a parachute because she's suicidal. And that's extremely overt. That I'm sad, I'm depressed, I don't know what to do. And it's the least cinematic way that you could do this. It's the least thematic, I guess, also way that you could do this, working it into the character. I'm thinking, what if the initial scene was her running up a flight of stairs, getting to the top of this skyscraper, and then getting to the edge where she has to jump off, and then hesitating because she's scared of what she inwardly wants to do, and then eventually jumping off and having those moments, those pushes of adrenaline, realizing that the person she's working for is evil, is not good. Having all of that push her to eventually take the step that she does at the end of the movie, which is to walk into the void and effectively kill herself, as far as she knows. But we have no idea if the film is saying that or not. I'm super confused on if the film was saying she was going to kill herself at the end of the movie or if she wasn't. So this is what I mean. There's just bits and pieces all throughout that the film pays lip service to the idea of depression, and it does have tragic backstories for its characters, but I don't think it sticks the landing. I don't think you get points for just bringing up mental health issues. You have to go a little bit further.
like drug addiction, like suicide.
It's the drug addiction. Okay, the drug addiction is played as a joke. The drug addiction part is where Bob is a meth addict in a chicken suit outside of a restaurant twirling a sign. And it's played for a joke. You get to that part when there's a flashback to him in the chicken suit, and they have to beat up Bob in the chicken suit, and he goes, "It's not my fault, I was on meth." And it's played as funny. Like, if you were gonna do that, you should have done it in a bit, maybe not right after a super emotional scene where you see his dad emotionally abusing him. I don't think that's a bad take.
And it shows you what all of these characters are going through and how they're all dealing with it in their own individual ways.
What's Bucky going through? Tell me, what's he going through? Because I can't tell you. This film doesn't give me anything for Bucky Barnes. And yet he is the most established character, hands down, of any of these guys. And he's got no personality in this film. He's really tangential to the plot. He shows up and takes Val's the main bad lady. He takes her security force off of their tail, and then he captures all of them, and then releases them, and then teams up with them, and he doesn't do anything for the rest of the movie. I couldn't tell you what he does. And then when you have a character like Ghost, who barely got any development before, well, she got a little bit in her own movie, but hasn't had anything since then, and now doesn't have anything in this one. Red Guardian and Yelena, yeah, they've got a little bit there. But then it's just really... And then you have a character like Walker, who is picked on and called a jerk and called a loser over and over for for his wife leaving him. I want to hear what he says about Walker if he talks about him, but I won't get into it now. But it doesn't handle any of the characters except maybe Yelena and maybe Red Guardian. Well, I don't know. I don't think this film fits what it set out to do.
And I think that's a very cool thing to do for these characters. And in turn, over the course of the film, you see them develop. You see them start.
When you don't see anyone develop except Yelena. Red Guardian is the same the whole way through. He arguably has the second biggest arc in this movie, and it's him starting out saying, "Oh, I want to be something more with my life. I want to stop living in a slump and do something." And then he saves a girl at the end, which there's not a lot of struggle for him to overcome in that. It's not like there's big life circumstances preventing him from doing that. I guess him reaching out to Yelena is a little bit of that, but that happens it's kind of mandated by the plot. It's not like a big character moment that he has to do to step up. He was always willing to do that, and then we don't see a huge change from him after that. And then Yelena's change is just being open with Bob. Honestly, I would have a hard time telling you what Yelena learned from all of this. Maybe she learned that life is worth living, but or that stuffing things inside. I guess that's part of it. Although it seemed to be more of a joke. Early in the movie when she tells Bob, "What do you do with the dark things, with the things that scare you? You stuff them deep inside and you don't talk about them." And then later she says, "No, I was wrong." I feel like that's more of a joke though. I feel like she already would have known that and just needed a nudge in the right direction. So yeah, there's a little bit for her, but it's not a huge amount.
To have a stronger bond to each other, and it's a film that finally focuses more on like the character development of the cast, and the performances in it definitely helped. I thought pretty much everyone did a good job here overall, and I really enjoyed the choreography of the action scenes early on. They were created.
Oh no, okay, go.
With everyone's powers. Even Ghost finally had some time to shine, because I think Ghost has cool powers. Basically Obito from Naruto. She's able to like phase through shit and have things like go through her and all that. Like, it's cool.
I'll pause this here. If he's talking about early on in the film, there's not really any opportunities for them to do it except the initial vault fight scene, in which they're just going at each other for a little bit and then they stop, and then they're going up the elevator shaft together, and you don't really get a full sense of their powers. They're not using them for that. And then if we're talking about later with the Sentry fight, that fight is really poorly choreographed. They're not coming at him at the same time. They're taking time for the camera to pan around as he beats up every one of them, one by one, instead of them all working as a team and rushing him together. It's the most basic use of their power set. Like, if you were to tell me Ghost can phase through walls, I could say, okay, well, she phases up the Sentry and he grabs her. That's like the only thing they do in this movie. They're, it's not creative. It's just basic.
It was nice to finally get to see them get creative with that.
Okay.
Really, all the characters got that treatment, except Taskmaster, that God rest her soul. But, like, you know, Walker got it. Yelena was also.
How did Walker get it? What's Walker's skill? Well, I guess there are. He's not. You know, I'll wait. I'll let him bring it up. I want to bring up something about Walker here.
Really hype. Red Guardian, not so much. He was kind of just like the brute force tank of their group. He didn't have a whole lot of choreography. It was mainly just like yell and like charge and kind of like get big, and then sometimes a couple haymakers and some of this, which is fine because that fits his character really well. Like, I do.
Yeah, I'm struggling to see what his criticism is there, because he's got those moments where he's going around and saving people in New York City at the end. And Walker has those moments as well in New York City. Walker's also got a lot in the car when they're escaping from Val's troops and Bucky shows up. Walker's jumping into the back, using the shield, blocking Ava, who is his Ghost. He's helping the team that way. He's got a fair bit there. He's got a huge jump up in the elevator shaft. That's not a fight scene necessarily. I really like Walker's choreography, but I don't think that Red Guardians should be discounted necessarily. I think Charlie's just saying he liked it all. See, that's the hard thing, is Charlie floats on the edge of, yeah, it was good, but also I liked it, and it's sometimes hard for me to tell the difference with him.
I do like what they did with all the characters in all of the action moments. Bucky was super badass. So I do think they did great with the action. But I think it's important people know going in that Thunderbolts isn't really that kind of superhero film. It's not like a traditional superhero film where like they beat the villain through force or.
They literally do. The Void is beaten into submission by all of the heroes bursting through and fighting their way through all of their respective dreams, and it's only at the very end, after the Void has been beaten into a pulp, that Sentry is then hugged, or Bob is hugged, and he's okay. Like, it just feels really anticlimactic to have it be that you could have just hugged Bob the whole time. But if that's the case, I kind of get where Charlie's coming from, apart from that fact that they had to fight to get there in the first place. You see, it's a little tenuous what the film is actually trying to say. I think back to I thought it was a great comparison. I think it was by Super Carlin Brothers back in the day, from Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and the Lego Movie, in that they have very similar plots and characters and the general motivations, or I guess the general premise of where everyone's going and the MacGuffins that are involved and things like that. And at the end of the film, in the Lego Movie, Emmett becomes friends or makes up with Lord Business. And then at the end of Guardians, you have a similar kind of funny moment with the dance-off from Peter Quill, followed by the Power Stone being used to kill him. So it's a little thing where Marvel, yeah, they've done little moments like that and then proceeded to kill a villain. But in this case, what else were you going to do? It's hard to know how they would have defeated Sentry had it not been for just appealing to emotion. And I don't think that's a reason to discount the film, because there's still plenty of action leading up to that point. Jury's out on whether it's good, but that's kind of where I stand on that.
Through clever tactics or anything like that. The action kind of stops happening.
There's a lot of clever tactics. Getting into that final sequence, Yelena she's like looking to the wall and breaking through the wall, seeing a mirror and going through that. There are a lot of things leading up to it, of characters using kind of their intuition to get there. I think I'd give it more credit than he would, actually.
Happening after the first half. Like, yes, there's a fight scene towards the end with Sentry, but it's very simplistic. Like, it's just very much a one-sided thing with not a whole lot more to it. And then there's no fighting left. So if you're going in here expecting a lot of action, you'll
that's fair.
That to a good extent in the beginning, but not towards the end, because this is more of like a drama around.
Are you talking about the one-sided being when they're in the Void or when they're in the tower? Because the tower is supposed to be no one has control here, no one's able to stop him. And then when they're in the whole dream sequences. There is a lot of action there. I'm wondering if he's just not counting that part.
Around these characters in this world and what they've been through, and the message it wants to get across, of course, being, being alone sucks, but you're not alone. Now you'll
It's just funny because that. I mean, it's funny they're using Yelena as this character because, yeah, she misses Natasha, but she's got Val as someone to reach out to. She's got Red Guardian as someone she could have reached out to, but he didn't reach out to her. And that's another thing that's just a little strange about the plot of this film, or I guess her emotional beats, is she's very upset about him not reaching out, which I can understand, but also you should have reached out too. It's not totally up to him to have done that. The film doesn't indicate either way whether she reached out and he didn't respond. It just says that he didn't reach out. So I feel like a large amount should be on her to have that, right? Especially when at the end of Black Widow, they were reunited as a family together. They like wanting to be with each other in the future. So it's two-sided. He didn't reach out, but neither did she. So that's just one aspect of the loneliness message that I think is weakened by the development of this film.
Elena, I think, was good in this movie. She's obviously like the main character here, but the most interesting character, I think, is Bob. I
agree. I do actually really like Bob in this movie.
really think he's one of the more interesting characters in the MCU at this moment, and I think they did
I think he's pretty straightforward as far as he's got a rough past and he has superpowers and is unable to control them. I don't like how he got his superpowers, and I think it's pretty simple, but I agree he's good. And granted, right now, yeah, he might be the most interesting right now.
good job with this character, and I'm really excited to see where they take him. There's no way I can get into some of the things I want to talk about without spoilers, so we're diving back in again to spoilers. These are some big ones. Spoiler warning.
Here we go.
I think the film is extremely predictable with how it all wraps itself up. You
Yep.
can watch my streams.
Yep. That's a huge problem with this, is that the ending of the film is abysmal. Once you have the fight with Sentry, Val shows up and she's called together a press conference. Now all of these characters, the heroes, know that Val created Sentry, and Sentry just wiped out all of New York City for 15 minutes. This is a huge issue. And then Val shows up. They're like, we're going to kill her, figuratively. And then they show up to this press conference, and instead of saying, thank you all for being here, but Val is the one who caused this, they just go along with it. And then the post-credit scene is them continuing to go along with it months later. Or is it years later? I forget. Anyway, it's so confusing why it wraps up this way, and it's probably the most incoherent part of the film. So I agree with you, Charlie. It is extremely predictable.
You'll know I made a prediction on how they beat someone as powerful as Sentry/Void. I was very close. I was almost right on the money with that prediction. They, of course, could never beat him in real combat. They instead...
It's rough, because can Doctor Doom beat him? I'm kind of interested to see how they handle it. They're probably going to fumble it, but it's going to be an interesting matchup to see.
had to match him emotionally. And, of course, the whole theme being about...
Well, the way they match him emotionally is by forcing him away from the Void version of himself and hugging him. That's not very deep.
Now, this guy, Bob, is, he's gone through a lot with addiction, depression, and everything that he's experienced. He had a really rough childhood. His upbringing was bad. And he feels so alone, thus Void. Well, they solve it with an anime lesson in the power of friendship. And
Really, actually.
to me, that just felt like it fits. It obviously fits. But having it be a group hug at the end that defeats Void just feels really unfulfilling and very much like kind of how Soul Eater ends with a friendship punch. It feels just...
Well, especially because I think, going back to the Guardians example, is they didn't kill the bad guy. He's still there. And it's not like other media that handle this duality, that where it's like you team up with the bad guy, and now it's something that you can't control, but you work together and stuff. I feel like that would have been way more powerful if he is about to beat up Void, And then you have that little bit of an action sequence, and then he gets knocked back because Void is taking over him. And then you have the group hug, and he's then empowered to go and hug Void. Like, think about that. That kind of group hug? That would have been way more impactful, because then you'd have an actual good lesson on how to handle the darker parts of you. Don't cast them out. They are part of you. Accept them. But he doesn't. We don't get that conclusion. We just break out of the void, and it's unresolved for this film. Like, I would have been totally okay with the hug if it were from him to Void. It's not.
Just a little underwhelming, but it's not that bad because, again, this isn't a film that's supposed to show you how strong these characters are and what they're capable of doing and how they could stack up against all of the Marvel greats from the past Avengers or anything like that. It is more of a character piece in showing their development.
I agree, it doesn't have to be, but when you have someone who's power scaled like Sentry, it does feel really weak that he's kind of unchecked in this film. And then you have the character moments, which aren't very deep. Charlie's saying they are, but he hasn't provided a lot of backing for it, especially for characters like Ghost and Bucky who get nothing. I don't think the film fulfills its responsibilities as a film in being able to bring you through on this journey.
And how they come together and form a family, which is something all of them...
Well, that's another thing, is I don't feel like this group is a family. The ending felt really forced. Just subjectively, I got to the post-credit scene and I was like, I don't see it here between these characters. I don't know why they're together. And so I'm trying to figure out what was the moment that made them a family. Was it the group hug? Maybe? And if so, why? I still don't get all of their motivations for staying in this group, especially when they are currently united by Val, a person who tasked them to kill each other and killed Taskmaster. It's rough. I don't see where this goes forward.
So desperately want. And I do think it does a good job of getting there, but with how dark a lot of the subject matter that it tackles here and it talks about, it just felt kind of a little too on the nose about, like, if we all hug, we're no longer alone and Void is defeated.
Yeah,
so
I'm there with you.
Again, it was fine. It wasn't like bad or anything. I just felt like there was...
I wonder what score he'd give it. Like, if there's a moist meter at the end when he gives it, because I know he sometimes gives movies scores and stuff. I think a lot of people's scores are skewed up. Mine certainly was for a while. I'd probably give this a 3.5, maybe a 4. I wonder if that's the threshold where he would give it. Like, I wouldn't rate this much higher than Captain Falcon, which I would probably give it, I think I'd give it a 3.
There was probably more they could have done there because through the power of family and friendship, they defeat the undefeatable and undoes all of the death and destruction that was caused. It literally just...
Yeah, like, how many other... So there were thousands? Trillions, if not more... Well, it would be more than trillions. There were countless Snap-adjacent deaths of people dying in airplane crashes or plane crashes or automobile accidents or just vital workers either in the medical fields or anything. Think of any area, and people who were snapped by Thanos weren't able to help in those areas and probably led to innumerable deaths in the Marvel Universe. So that happening on a tiny scale for 15 minutes in New York City, that's going to be catastrophic for the city. How many people were in cars that just ended up crashing? Or we see a helicopter where Sentry shadows, whatever he does, voids a couple of the guys in the helicopter, and the helicopter crashes into a crane, which crashes into a building. How many people are just permanently dead from that? That's kind of a serious issue. That's not addressed by the film, and Bob is still at large. You think they'd talk to him about, like, hey, we need to figure out what to do with this power in case something comes back. We need to have a serious, calm talk about this kill switch, if it works at all, because there is a kill switch that is supposed to kill him but turns him into the void. So trying to figure out what do you do with a power like that? They don't touch on it in a way that they really should in this film.
Just like brings everyone back instantly. But one other thing I want to briefly mention is that even though every character is given some level of depth and fleshing out on the things they've been through in their
Ghost.
trauma, I do feel like a couple of the characters don't really get a chance to do much. Most notably, Ghost, and to a lesser extent, Walker. Walker gets
What does Bucky get to do? After he shows up, he doesn't do anything. And even before then, he's just Congressman gathering intel. And he's an incompetent one at that. He can't talk in front of a camera. It's pretty bad. But I'm still hung up on the idea that Ghost got character fleshed out. That's confusing to me.
gets a little bit more to do, not a ton more.
Wait, did he just say Walker didn't get much to
To
do?
a lesser extent, don't really get a chance to do much. Most notably, Ghost, and to a lesser extent, Walker. Walker gets a little bit more to do, not a ton more, but a bit more.
I argue Walker has more to do than half the characters in this movie. He's part of the operation to get out of the vault in the first place. He comes up with the idea to commandeer the suit. He jumps up the elevator shaft. He selfishly jumps up out of the elevator shaft, pulls everyone up after him. He's got the whole thing where he's jumping around the car and stopping the bullets from there. He's got a fair bit.
Ghost kind of is just a character that's in the background a lot in the second half of the film. Like, yes, she still contributes, yes, she's still present for everything, but she doesn't really play a role in a lot of the things that start developing.
Yeah, and you compare this movie to The Avengers, which this is The New Avengers. That's a title in the actual film. It's not even close. The Avengers is a fantastic film. And comparing this one to that, you really feel for every character in that movie. And even Hawkeye, who's kind of the running joke as he's the least favorite Avenger. He's maybe not least favorite, but he's the least well-known Avenger. He's the least, ultra-powered Avenger. He's got really good aim. He gets fleshed out. He's mind-controlled at the beginning of the film, and half the film is Natasha trying to get him back. It's a great development for even him. And I walk away from that film, like watching that film, really wanting to see more of these characters and understanding where they're coming from. I don't get that with this movie. I just feel sad that they did that to Walker. I'm a big Walker fan. He's a good guy. I'm coming about it.
And I was expecting more out of Walker because in the beginning, he was like the big asshole guy who was, squaring off against Bob and busting his balls and stuff. And then that just vanishes pretty quickly. He stops being that guy. And then when he stops being that guy,
Maybe it's because he was never that guy to begin with.
he kind of just gets sidelined like Ghost for the second half of the film. So it's not the biggest deal in the world because when you have this many characters and you're trying to, develop all of them and give the audience a reason to...
We did it in Infinity War. We did it so much better in Infinity War. Infinity War is maybe even a better example than Avengers of every character in that movie, except maybe Mantis and Drax, is given very good character development and things to do, ways to show their character. There's little things here and there, like Groot cutting off his arm for Thor's new hammer. Like, that's a tiny moment that speaks a lot for Groot. And it's a little thing in that movie. And it's more than we see of half the characters in this movie. I remember that really well. I don't think I'm going to remember this film, though. I wonder how many people are going to remember the events of this film.
care about them. Like, some of them are going to get more attention than others, like Yelena obviously being like the main character. So I get it. It's just something I wanted to mention. It would have been nice to see them also get some more attention in the second half, but not that big of a deal. But anyway, I liked Thunderbolts. It was refreshing to finally get something a bit different than we've been getting served the last few years of just forgettable mediocrity. This was finally something that I definitely think was worth seeing. That's really about it. So yeah.
I guess that's, if that's where he's coming from it, and his take is more just, I liked it and here's why I liked it, that's not so bad of a take. Like, he's being a lot more generous than I would give Marvel, just because, I mean, obviously he knows Marvel. He must know the heights that we were at back in Phase 3. And so I guess he would say those films were excellent or really good, and this is just good. So a lot of the times with a film, I guess more media critics like him, well, he's not a good media critic. People like him, like Charlie, who do like internet, like, what does he do? He reacts to a bunch of videos he sees online. So I guess the reactor group on YouTube. Or Jeremy Johns, for example. When you have... Jeremy Johns is pretty consistent. So when you have film reviewers who are talking about movies and they're generally more positive, I think a good metric to have is you take their review and just scale it down just a little bit. If they're giving it rave reviews and it's more of a film that is mixed and they really like it, maybe pull it down a little bit and find that it's a mixed film. It's okay. It's not excellent. And so with Charlie, what he's saying, he thought it was good. I'd pull that down to say, no, it's not good. It's not even really serviceable. But yeah, it's barely better than what we're getting from Marvel these days. And I think that's just where a lot of YouTube is coming from. You know, Charlie he has pretty consistent takes on a lot of things. One thing he does pretty well is understand his audience and what they want him to cover or what the vibe is of what they like. And so it seems like the normie audience, which I'm not saying derisively. I think that makes sense. I've got a lot of friends who just, they go to Marvel movies every now and then. If Charlie's saying, yeah, you'll probably enjoy this one, that's probably the case. If you want to go see Thunderbolts, you're probably going to enjoy it if you're a casual fan. I wouldn't recommend it just because I don't think I'm a casual fan. I think I pay attention a little bit more to here's where the characters have been through, especially the characters from the TV shows. And that's not to say my perspective is more valid. It's just I feel like I have, a little bit more time put into thinking about these films. So as far as that goes, probably don't see it. But if you wanted to see it for the reasons that Charlie gave, go see it. That's about it. Thanks for watching, I guess. Again, this is more just for my friends to be able to see and comment on, but this was the first time I'd done something like this. I hope it worked out. Hope I didn't ramble for too long. Oh my gosh, it's 45 minutes. We're going to wrap this up. Thanks, y'all.